Hi there, this is Dr. Dell speaking, and I'm going to talk to you today about something that I call the joy of math. Of course, Dr. Dell is a pen name that I use, and I'll tell you a little more about myself as we go on. Math is, of course, a short term for mathematics, and mathematics is a wonderful, huge subject that is certainly one of the things that distinguishes human beings from virtually all other species. I'm not sure language and music distinguish us, because other species, of course, do have their own language and ability to create certain types of what we might call music. But mathematics is a pretty unique thing. And mathematics is actually the basis for most of our modern technology and science, and so it is certainly very practical. And in fact, if you appreciate modern civilization, you might even say it's very critical and necessary. Unfortunately, many people have developed a dislike or a fear or a phobia of mathematics. I don't know that you would be in that category, but there are a lot of people that are, and I certainly want to address those types of people. I believe that mathematics, if it's approached properly, is a very enjoyable subject. That's why I talk about the joy of mathematics. And in fact, I don't believe that you can really learn mathematics if you don't enjoy mathematics. So that's going to be the emphasis that I'm going to have in the series of videos that I'm creating. You can think of them as lessons to help you understand more about mathematics. Now, one of the reasons that people develop fears and phobias and dislikes of mathematics is because of the experience they've had when they've been exposed to it by their educational system. There are fundamentally three types of teachers, and the first type is a teacher that doesn't know mathematics very well. Of course, you wouldn't be able to judge that. And that type of teacher tends to be pedantic and dogmatic when they teach it, and can make it very confusing sometimes and very unpleasant. Then there's the teacher that knows it well, but simply can't communicate it at a level that most people can easily understand. And the third kind of teacher knows it well, but also has the ability to communicate it in a way that makes it understandable. Well, unfortunately, many math teachers fall into this first category. And it's not necessarily their fault. I really blame the educational system for that. And as a matter of fact, I was exposed to such teachers in my early youth and career, and I developed a dislike for mathematics, a pretty intense dislike for mathematics, because I had some teachers that just made it difficult to understand and made it unpleasant and didn't motivate me at all. But then I got very lucky. When I was in the about 14 years old, in the 10th grade, I ran into a teacher, a wonderful woman who knew mathematics pretty well, certainly the subjects that she taught in math, and better yet though, she was a good communicator. And she taught me how to appreciate mathematics, and let me realize that I could understand it and that it was enjoyable and it did have use. I didn't fully appreciate then how practical it was. I didn't realize at that time that mathematics was going to really become a very important part of my life. As I continued on in my math education, once I got turned on by this really good teacher I had when I was 14 and 15 years old, I then started getting teachers that knew math pretty well, but they didn't communicate it well. Fortunately, once you get over the hump, so to speak, you can usually learn from these people, even though it can be somewhat difficult and challenging. And I had a lot of these types of teachers as I went on in math in college and then later on in graduate school. Well, as it turns out, I started teaching math myself when I was very young. I started out teaching a friend of mine, and I taught it in a way that I call kitchen table math. In fact, what we did is we sat at his kitchen table, and I simply explained to him the mathematics that he was studying. I was about a year ahead of him, and he was struggling. He was actually failing math. He was failing a subject called geometry, we'll talk about a little bit. And simply by patiently explaining it to him and discussing it with him, he began to learn it pretty well, and he actually then did quite well in it. He ended up making, I think, a B in the subject, which for him was a pretty remarkable thing considering the experience he had had. So he went from having a phobia and really hating it to, I would say, almost enjoying it. And I went on from there and began to teach math on a one-on-one basis, and it's what I call kitchen table math, where you sit and you explain it. And that's what I'm going to be doing in these videos. I'm going to pretend that you are just a friend of mine, and we're sitting at our kitchen table, and I'm going to explain things to you that I know about mathematics. I went on to study mathematics for many years and earned my living teaching mathematics for quite a number of years. And I tried very hard to fit into Category 3. I've always tried to understand math, and of course there's always more to learn. It's a huge subject. And then I've tried to work very hard to try to communicate it with students that I've had. And I've done the best I can do, and I think I've come pretty close to this ideal. Now, as a matter of fact, I'm aiming these videos really at anyone that is interested in mathematics. And not only students of math, but also teachers, I think, can get a lot from these videos. I hope that some of you out there that are teachers will learn some things in these videos that you'll be able to adopt and adapt to your classroom situation, and it will help you. A lot of the things that I'm going to teach you, in fact, I learned myself from some really good teachers. And so I'll tell you about one of them in just a moment, as a matter of fact. So let me tell you a little more about what mathematics is and what we're going to be doing in these videos.